Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and the story begins with an elderly man who had been imprisoned for the murder of his wife, but is now released after his innocence was proven, as his wife's death was merely an accident. We are then introduced to his son, Ryan, who, after his mother's death and his father's imprisonment, survived by selling insects despite his young age. He managed to take care of himself. At this time, we also meet his friend Carlos, who is always there to help him. Shortly after, Ryan returns home and finds his father in a room, realizing that his father has been released from prison, but he doesn't care and goes back to his room. During that time, Ryan starts thinking about various topics until his father enters the room, tries to greet him, and tells him he missed him because Ryan never visited him in prison. This marks their first encounter since his father's imprisonment. At that moment, the father asks him to sit together for a meal and talk about home and work. During dinner, his father asks him how he managed to live alone and take care of himself all this time. Ryan replies, "Even if you were around, it wouldn't have made any difference to me." However, his father informs him that he plans to remarry so that a woman can take care of both of them and the house. Ryan doesn't respond and returns to his room. The next day, the father goes to Ryan's room and sits with him, then takes him to work to teach him farming instead of collecting and selling insects. When they arrive, Ryan refuses to get out, but his father forces him. At that moment, Ryan asks his father why he wants to remarry and bring another woman into the house even though it's been less than a year since his mother's death. His father responds by saying that his mother's death was fate and that he had no part in it. But Ryan retorts, "That's why you went to jail for killing her." The father replies that if he had actually killed her, he wouldn't have been released as an innocent man. However, Ryan ignores his father's words and continues to insist that he killed his mother. He even warns his father, saying he won't let him live happily with his new wife. At that moment, the father angrily walks away. As punishment for Ryan, the father has to walk all the way back home on foot. At home, Ryan raises a venomous scorpion and feeds it a new insect every day. The next day, the father returns home and sits with Ryan, informing him that he found a divorced woman who agreed to marry him and take care of them both. Afterward, he takes his son to meet her. At this point, Ryan feels anxious and keeps washing his hands in the bathroom to avoid seeing her. The next day, Ryan returns to his room while his father is out of the house. At that moment, he spies on his stepmother as she changes clothes, but she suddenly notices him and covers herself. Ryan becomes extremely frightened and goes to his friend, telling him, "My father married a 20-year-old girl." His friend laughs because Ryan's father is 55 years old. At home, his stepmother prepares dinner, cleans the place, and tries to serve Ryan food, saying, "I made your favorite dish that your mother used to cook." But Ryan puts the food back and leaves. The next day, while his stepmother is washing their clothes, Ryan finds the scorpion and shows it to her to scare her, but she laughs and asks him to let her finish her work. At that moment, Ryan tries to help her and asks her why she married a man his father's age. She tells him she had no other choice because she was divorced and needed to remarry quickly before people started talking about her. Ryan responds, "You deserve to marry a young man like yourself instead of wasting your life with a man my father's age." After that, Ryan puts on the shirt she washed for him, and his stepmother tells him he looks handsome. He laughs and tells her that he is the right man for her to marry instead of spending the rest of her life with someone his father's age. Suddenly, Ryan tries to approach her, but she pulls away and asks him not to do that again. Ryan laughs and says, "You definitely need a young man in your life because you enjoyed it when I was watching you." His stepmother remains silent and leaves. At that moment, Ryan goes to his friend, and the two head to the swimming pool. Meanwhile, his stepmother stays at home with Ryan's father. When Ryan returns home, he finds the fridge full of food but becomes irritated by the noises coming from the room. Shortly after, he goes to his father's room and makes sure no one sees him leaving, then comes back after dawn. At that moment, he sees his stepmother in the bathroom taking a shower, and strangely, she notices him but doesn't care. He takes advantage of the opportunity and places the scorpion on his father's bed. Fortunately, his father feels the scorpion before it stings him. His father then confronts him and asks if he did it. Ryan admits he put the scorpion there, So his father beats him in front of his stepmother and kills the scorpion that Ryan had raised all this time. The next day, his father warns him not to repeat what happened and tries to explain that he's building a future for him. He also tells him that he has a heart condition and could lose his life at any moment. After that, the father asks his son to continue working on the farm they worked on together so that he can become a farmer in the future and have his own farm instead of collecting and selling insects. But Ryan still shows no interest in his father and continues to harbor resentment, telling him that even if he dies, he wouldn't care. At home, Ryan keeps the music playing loudly and leaves the house without his father noticing. His father gets angry at the loud music and goes to Ryan's room, only to find it empty. At that time, Ryan is with a dangerous group and asks them to kill his father in exchange for following their orders. After making the deal, he returns home. Unfortunately, he discovers that the group is actually his father's friends, and they tell him that his son and his wife plotted to get rid of him to inherit the house and farm. They also tell him that his wife cheated on him with his son, and that Ryan himself admitted it. At home, the father sits quietly in front of his wife, who asks if he's okay. He replies by asking her if she really cheated on him with his son. She tells him that she was forced to marry him and never wanted to marry in the first place. When she saw Ryan, she was attracted to him and fell in love. After that, the father takes his son to the farm as he does every day, and when they arrive, Ryan works enthusiastically, while the father remains silent and works without speaking. He then brings out a knife and sticks it into the wood, saying, "This is the knife you asked them to kill me with." Ryan takes the knife and closes it, and his father asks him why he did that. Ryan replies, "Because you killed my mother and got married before a year had passed since her death." At that moment, his father slaps him and tells him that he is just as bad as he is because he had an affair with his stepmother, showing no respect for his mother's death. The father then leaves the farm, walking away in sadness over his only son's actions, who believes his father killed his mother. Ryan calls after him until his father collapses from a heart attack. When Ryan approaches him, he sees his body motionless and rushes him to the hospital. There, the doctors inform him that his father died due to his heart condition. Ryan stands over his father's lifeless body, filled with regret for what he has done. And here we come to the end of the film. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video.